Okay, let's look at number 47. You have lots going on in terms of your period being different, your phase shift, and there is also a vertical shift. Your A is the only thing that we have going for us is 1. So when we start out here, I probably would look at y equals the cosine of 2x to help me graph y equals the secant of 2x. Some of you may need to start with y equals the cosine of x, so I am going to do that just in case you have to start there. So if you were to plot those points, you know that the cosine of 0 is 1, the cosine of 2 pi is 1, the cosine of pi is negative 1, and then we've got our intercepts in between. So if you were to graph that parent function of the cosine, it would look like this, because it takes 2 pi to go all the way through the values. What we're going to do, instead of going all the way to 2 pi, is we're going to go to pi. So instead of this point right here, we're going to compress that to pi. Now I'm going to put some blue dots so that you know which ones I'm talking about. And then halfway in between, remember I went down to negative 1, and so I've got negative 1. And then I'm going to go 1/4 of the way to hit my intercepts. Now I'm going to erase that original cosine graph. And now I'm going to draw in, this is the cosine of 2x. So notice it's been compressed, and of course you could check values if you needed to, but hopefully you don't. Now, and then of course I could graph a few more if I needed to. So if I wanted to go another pi, if you had to graph further. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to use that graph to then start focusing on y equals the secant of 2x. So because the secant of 2x, right, is the same as 1 over cosine of 2x, so we're going to be looking at where is my function undefined. So I'm going to draw in my asymptotes where it looks like they're happening at pi over 4. This looks to be pi over 4 and 3 pi over 4. And then of course I could continue. I better go ahead and continue if I needed to, so I can get in. Okay. And so now how we graph that secant graph is we put our vertex or our minimum kind of value right there. And that's how I graph y equals the secant of 2x. Well, that would be great, but I'm not finished. So I dealt with my period. And if you, of course, want to check that, I thought I had written that down, but I hadn't. So the period of secant is always 2 pi divided by b, and so that's why the secant graph is, in this case, only going pi before it starts repeating values. Now I also need to look at the phase shift. So my phase shift is always c over b. So in this case, that's pi over 2 divided by 2, which is going to be a phase shift of pi over 4 to the left. So right now, what I have going on my, I can actually go in, and I probably should. I'm going to go ahead and erase this blue, which was the cosine of 2x. So now we have really, we're looking at the secant graph which is the secant of 2x, because we compressed it. So once you get that piece, then the next piece hopefully is a little bit easier. So now we're going to shift it. We're going to shift it to the left pi over 4. So notice where your asymptotes are. They're at pi over 4. They're at 3 pi over 4. So what we're going to do, I'm going to make these in red. And I'm going to, I said I was going to make them in red. So I'm going to shift them pi over 4 units. So so these red asymptotes are shifting pi over 4 units. So what that means is we no longer are going to have the green asymptotes. And of course I could keep going. And then your other points are going to shift pi over 4. So instead of the this point at pi over 2, -1, it's going to shift to the left pi over 4. Okay, and now I just need to shift all of my points to the left pi over 4. So let's start here with, I'm going to shift that to the left pi over 4, and then right now, you know, I would be going upward. I'm going to shift this to the left, and here I'd be going downward, and here I need to go to the left, and I'd be going upward. So I'm not quite done, and I'm going to erase the green. Because I took care of my period, I took care of my phase shift, but now I have a vertical shift, so I still need to go down 1. So what I'm going to do with these points is I'm going to go down 1 and then draw in my graph. And I can then, of course, erase that blue portion. So I'm going to go down 1, draw in my graph, and then erase that blue portion. And then, of course, I can do the same thing here. I need to go down 1. And draw in my graph.